Hey everybody, it's the waitingfornextyear.com podcast. I'm your host Craig Lindell, and today the Cleveland Browns apparently have a new coach. I don't think they can officially announce it. The contract probably hasn't been worked out, but Kevin Stefanski, the man that Paul DePodesta reportedly wanted a year ago when John Dorsey won the battle and hired Freddie Kitchens, finally gets his man, Kevin Stefanski from the Minnesota Vikings, a man who runs the Kubiak-Shanahan zone-blocking play-action pass offense, is coming to Cleveland. First things first, I'm on record, and you guys know very, very well that I'm on record saying I don't really have a whole lot of trust left because of the Haslam ownership. So as long as they're the ones making the decisions and making the hires, I don't know. It's hard to have any kind of faith. I understand the idea that they're going for this time by hiring the coach and the GM who are going to be on the same page. I think, honestly, that was a good idea with Dorsey and Kitchens as well, just in terms of being on the same page. Obviously, Kitchens was not the right pick. It was a horrible pick by John Dorsey, but the idea, the structure, getting two guys who are aligned, I think makes a lot of sense. And so I still don't necessarily support the idea of firing John Dorsey, but I understand the process. A lot of Cleveland Browns fans are crestfallen today that Josh McDaniels is not joining the Cleveland Browns. And I understand that too. I see the appeal of Josh McDaniels. He's got a history. He's failed once as a head coach, but that was a long time ago. And so that experience alone makes you think that he might have the gravity to be the leader that the Browns need as the next head coach. He might be able to demand respect of Baker Mayfield and the rest of the locker room because he's worked with Belichick. He has Super Bowl rings. He's coached the quote-unquote GOAT. I hate that whole thing, the GOAT. But, I mean, he coached Tom Brady. So if there's anybody who's going to have the ear of Baker Mayfield in the locker room, you would have thought Josh McDaniels was that guy. In order to achieve the organizational alignment, however, in order to get that with Josh McDaniels, the Browns would have had to clean house. They probably would have had to just clean house. And I think that Jimmy Haslam and Paul DePodesta and the rest of the crew that were running this search really didn't want to clean house. When Jimmy took a break from his interview with Mike McCarthy to talk to the media, what did he talk about? He said that he wasn't looking forward to a wholesale decimation of the roster. He felt like this time a lot of the Browns' key players are in their early to mid-20s. You know, the old men on the block are guys like Landry and Odell Beckham Jr., and they're like 26 and 27. So this team is not in a position where they need to blow up the roster and change a bunch of things out. They've got pieces now. Certainly there's going to be some turnover. Anytime you have coaching and general manager changes, there's going to be turnover, stylistic turnover. But the key pieces should probably remain. And that just goes to show that Jimmy Haslam was not here for a complete and total makeover like he was back when Sashi Brown got the job and they won one game in 2 years as they rebuilt the entire organization, not to mention the roster. And so that kind of made Stefanski the pick. He was the pick of Paul DePodesta, and now they get set to go find the GM who's going to work with him, and it might be Andrew Berry. And I know a lot of Browns fans get very nervous, and you'd think maybe I would get very nervous as one of the biggest detractors of the Sashi Brown era, that the Browns are now replicating the front office, at least to a certain extent, that existed when Sashi Brown was running the team, and they went 1-31. And I know everybody wants to talk about Hugh Jackson. We can talk about Hugh Jackson, but the point is that even with a better coach, those 2 years were going to be horrible. That roster was never going to win a lot of games. We're talking about Deshaun Kaiser, Corey Coleman, Isaiah Crowell, and Ricardo Lewis. Okay? That is not a recipe for winning many NFL football games, whether your coach is Hugh Jackson or Newt Rockne. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. But the Browns are not in that position this time. They're not sitting on horrible contracts and not enough assets. They're not in a position where they should blow it all up and amass first-round picks forever and ever and ever. They've spent a bunch of those draft picks over the last 2 years. They've spent a bunch of those assets to build the team that they have. They needed a coach, and they need a front office to come in and take advantage of what they have today and add to it and start to win right away. And I am confident that is Jimmy Haslam's intent. I don't know if I have no faith that he can achieve it because his past performance doesn't allow him any faith. But I'm certain that that's the plan, is to try and win right away. And that's Kevin Stefanski to come in and use the players that they have and build off of, what it is that they have today. So that's what we've got. We've got the Cleveland Browns hiring Kevin Stefanski, and I'm telling you, that zone blocking scheme is exactly what every Browns fan should want for this team. Between the questions at offensive line, the revelation of Nick Chubb and Baker Mayfield's skill set, the zone blocking scheme, which leads to lots of cutback runs for a really talented runner like Nick Chubb, not to mention Kareem Hunt. And then you've got a quarterback like Baker Mayfield, who I wouldn't call him mobile in the sense of like a run-first quarterback, but he's a guy who can and probably should move the pocket. He's not 6'5", so the idea of moving the pocket and doing a lot of play action makes a ton of sense. I don't have the stats in front of me, but if you look at the splits on Baker Mayfield's career so far, his play action percentages are really, really good. And so to run an offense where Nick Chubb is going to get loose and scare the crap out of opposing defenses, that's going to make the play action that much more effective. That's going to open up Jarvis Landry and Odell Beckham Jr. It could be and should be amazing. So what we're left with is Kevin Stefanski going to be a good head coach? Is he going to be a quote-unquote leader of men? Leader of men! I don't know what that phrase means. I'm going to go off on a tangent. Leader of men might be one of the dumbest things that we throw around in NFL commentary circles. Leader of men is a meaningless phrase. Stop after the word leader. Are you a leader? A leader of men! No. The leader of men. What does that even mean? Are you a leader? Are you a leader? So is Kevin Stefanski a leader? Can he be an effective head coach? Will he design a game plan that has the team following in step? Will they believe in him when he wants to go for it on fourth down, or when he wants to fake a punt, or whether he wants to punt, whether he wants to take the ball first or defer to the second half? Will he build that trust, that alignment in the roster as well? Will he be able to do that? Is he going to call his own plays? God help us all. I know there are coaches out there who are effective calling their own plays. I know. I understand. There are no rules. Some guys can call their own plays. Some guys can't call their own plays. There's no hard, fast rule. I don't know if Kevin Stefanski is the kind of guy who can be an effective head coach while calling his own plays. What I do know is that the last few examples in the Browns have been really bad. Pat Shurmur, Hugh Jackson, Freddie Kitchens. One of the criticisms of Freddie Kitchens was that he would get into the game and he would totally abandon the game plan once he started calling plays. He would lose all focus and stop calling the game plan that they'd talked about for the whole week. These are the risks that you have when a head coach is also the offensive coordinator calling plays, okay? I don't want to see it. Best practice, my best idea for efficiency in running NFL game plan on Sunday would be the head coach be the head coach, worrying about the clock and challenges and the overall game plan. Yeah, he might make a fourth down. Do we go for it? Do we kick a field goal? Do we go for two? Kind of a decision. But it'd be much easier for him to focus on those things if he's not also trying to figure out, well, all right, well, we're going to go for it. All right, now I've decided we're going to go for it. Which play do we call? Like, separation of powers. That's an efficiency thing. That's an efficiency thing. And I support the separation because I think it's better. In an ideal world, I think it makes more sense to separate those things and let everybody concentrate on an area to entrust and embolden and empower your coaching staff to help you. That's what I want. I don't know if that's what's going to happen. We'll see. And that's not to say that Kevin Stefanski is maybe he is like Andy Reid or one of these guys who can coach and call his own plays at the same time. But I'm wary of it. As a Browns fan, as somebody who's followed this team for the last million years, I'm wary of it. Okay. So yeah, is he a leader? Is he going to call his own plays? These are the things that nobody knows. And I get really shocked when I see really strident opinions on Twitter and on the internet that the Browns screwed this up. It's a disaster. Kevin Stefanski is a horrible hire. It's an awful maybe. But the same fan base that was really excited for Freddie Kitchens because he had a great relationship with Baker Mayfield and they hired him for his play calling, so why should he... Like, your track record, Browns fans, including myself, your track record for instantaneous reactions and how meaningful it is to whether a guy's going to work out or not is miserable. The fan base that knew jack about Freddie Kitchens and whether he was going to be successful or not should probably slow their roll with the instantaneous opinion of Kevin Stefanski a day after he was hired. I grant you that I have no faith and trust in Jimmy Haslam to make a good hire either, but my opinion is not to be trusted. If I have an opinion, a strong opinion on Kevin Stefanski today, that he's good, bad, indifferent, it's not to be trusted because I don't know anything. I've never talked to the guy. I've never talked to players who played for the guy. I haven't talked to anybody who's ever worked with Kevin Stefanski. I know nothing about the guy other than what the rest of you know, which is superficial at best. Okay? We don't know anything. We don't know enough to say that it's a good hire. We don't know enough to say it's a bad hire. All I can tell you is that the theory of hiring a zone blocking scheme, the Shanahan offense, Kubiak offense guy, I think is a good idea. I think hiring a guy with who is in line with DePodesta and a GM is good in theory. I think it makes me nervous, and I've told you about those things too. It makes me nervous. I like Andrew Berry. I think he's a smart guy. I think he's a coveted personnel man in the NFL. I think that's good. I think he's a guy who's qualified for the job that the Browns are talking about bringing him in to have. So but I don't know if he's going to work out. I don't know if he and Stefanski are going to work well together. I don't know if he's going to screw up the draft, and I don't know if he's going to say that the Browns should trade Odell Beckham and Jarvis Landry. I don't know what he's going to do. I can't co-sign on a bunch of future moves that I have no idea what he's going to decide to do. So all I'm telling you right now is what I think and what I think, and I'm doing the best that I can. But I don't actually know anything, and neither do you. And that's an important thing for us all to realize. Not that, we know anything. We need to know what we don't know. Okay? Know what you don't know. And that's really what it comes down to. And it's not exciting. It's more interesting to be on record. You can quote me on this. I know that's more interesting. But that's not reality. We should know better by this point. As Browns fans and followers, we just need to know better at this point. So that's where we are. Kevin Stefanski's been hired. We can see kind of what the ideas are and maybe what the Browns are going to hope to accomplish by having hired him. And we'll see. We'll see. Anybody who's really upset by the news that it wasn't Josh McDaniels, especially considering his local ties here in the Cleveland area, you can just assume that they know that guy and that they're in the tank for that guy. And that's not a bad thing either. If you grew up with people who know Josh McDaniels and you were rooting for him to come home to the Cleveland area and to bring in the entire McDaniels team from top to bottom and build consensus that way, I understand it. I really do. It's a theory. It might have worked. But you don't know that would have been any more or less of a disaster than what turns out to be with Kevin Stefanski. Again, it's on the Browns. It's on Jimmy Haslam. It's on Paul DePodesta, who, by the way, is now on the clock. Paul DePodesta is officially on the clock for his job now. He was almost insulated in a way by the Browns not making his selections the last couple of years. By the Browns going with John Dorsey and choosing Freddie Kitchens, there was that plausible deniability for DePodesta where he would say, that's not the guy I wanted. I wanted Stefanski. I wanted this guy. That's not who analytics would have chosen in the process. And by the way, I guarantee, or almost guarantee, Paul DePodesta has never said, that's not who analytics would have selected. Like, that's a dumb thing to say. But now he's on the clock. He did win something of a power struggle. His selection has been chosen. And so now, if Stefanski and this crew fails miserably, he's going to have some of the blame in his corner. It's going to be on his permanent record now. At least I think. I don't know. He's a great mystery, Paul DePodesta. We have no idea. We know he's running the search. We know that his contract is up. Who knows? Maybe he won't even be back. Maybe this was his final move, was to bring back Andrew Berry and hire Kevin Stefanski and get out of the way. So I'm curious. I'm curious about the rest of your opinions. Do you guys agree with me that this is just a move and we have to kind of see how it plays out? Do you have strong opinions on it other than you don't trust Jimmy Haslam? It's interesting times, as always in Cleveland. Interesting times. It's always interesting times in Cleveland. So that's what I got for now. I will be reaching out to some additional people. I hope you enjoyed Andrew and I talking. We talked some Cavs and John Beeline. We talked Browns coaching search. So I hope you appreciated that. I will continue to bring the guests. Our friend Jared Watson from Andy and Jared Cleveland and Beyond. He blew me off. He blew me off for his own podcast. Can you believe it? He blew me off for his own podcast. He wanted to do one with Andy. So someday, Jared, Someday we'll be talking on the Waiting for Next Year podcast, but apparently not last night. So that's it. Thanks for listening. We'll talk to you soon. It's been the waitingfornextyear.com podcast.